Last weekend, ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors. As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest, and when I'm mayor, we will protect that right. New York will always welcome immigrants, and I will fight each and every day to protect, support, and celebrate our immigrant brothers and sisters. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, "Am I free to go?" repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run.
Question. You're the mayor and in charge of the NYPD. Are you going to ensure and tell the NYPD leadership that when ICE or federal agents want to have an operation, it is their responsibility to make sure they can do that? Or do you consider that an unlawful assistance for ICE in some of these locations?
I would say that to follow the letter of the law, the sanctuary city policies that we have, and to ensure that we never again open the door on the idea of the NYPD doing civil immigration enforcement. And I would also add that what I've seen in the findings thus far is following that sanctuary city policy, and wherever there is actions that go outside of that, that has to be changed.
The NYPD keep order on the streets.
NYPD's job is to keep order, but it's not to assist immigration agents in the work that they are doing. It's to protect New Yorkers. That's the job.
Thank you guys.
We're just 1 month away now until Zohran Mamdani is sworn in as Mayor of New York City, and you've written a fascinating piece for Unheard about the 60,000 New Yorkers who voted for Donald Trump last year and then Zohran Mamdani this year. And really the message that those voters are sending is that the status quo isn't working. I was also listening to an old interview with Charlie Kirk, actually only from a few months ago, earlier this year, around his thoughts on the rise of Mamdani, and he argued that young voters, if they're voting for him, they're really sending a distress signal, partly due to the economic reality. You know, they've been priced out of the housing market. You know, it's far more expensive for them to get a home than it was for their parents' generation. So this generation is significantly worse off than the generation before them. Many people are relying on buy now, pay later programs for groceries. I mean, not just concert tickets, but actually using buy now, pay later programs for groceries. So it's a huge issue. And look, you've noted there are plenty of voters who are not loyal to anyone. Can you talk to us about what you learned from speaking to these voters?
Right. I think that's exactly right, what you mentioned about the economic conditions at the moment. I mean, we've got a situation where millennials are door dashing $9 burritos, doing the pay now, buy later kind of thing. And it is pretty troubling what's going on over here, especially with the rise of ChatGPT and AI. We're now at something like 25% unemployment rate for college graduates in the white collar space. So yeah, a lot of these are floating in the background. And as you mentioned, I did this piece on the Zohran Mamdani voter, Trump voter phenomenon. There's something like 60,000 of them. I think there are actually probably a lot more than that, but that's the official number. And what I discovered was that there was just a huge dissatisfaction with the status quo as things stand. And they knew that these voters knew that they weren't going to be getting the answer they wanted from the quote unquote establishment, whether they be Republicans or Democrats. That's why they swung so hard from the right over to the left. And I think it's something we're going to see going forward. I think the left-right distinction is breaking down now. We're seeing a populist establishment distinction. And whoever can speak to some of these economic concerns and anxieties that a lot of young people, but also working class, middle class people are feeling, I think they're going to do very well. And this is a really fascinating time in American politics.
It certainly is. How will this play into next year's midterm elections? They're less than a year away now, and they're, of course, about as high stakes as election can be.
Right. Well, I have to give credit to Mamdani here. He did, in the early 2020s, his politics were basically a grab bag of BLM nonsense. It was racial identitarianism, it was COVID maximalism, and it was this kind of woke cultural emphasis. Now he was just hammering home the message of economics, economics, economics,
Yeah.
and affordability. And I think the Republicans can take a lesson here. If they want to win or at least recover some of their losses, they have to focus on affordability as an issue. I'm talking about gas prices, electricity bills, grocery bills, and the same lesson goes to the Democrats as well. Whichever party can really seize those issues and prove that they're doing something about it is going to win.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Jasmine Crockett. We love her, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's fronted at the Liberal media to explain why she suggested that Republicans took donations from pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, only it was, of course, a different Jeffrey Epstein. So she went on MSN Now to explain herself, insisting that she didn't mislead anyone at all because she, in fact, clarified. She said, Jeffrey Epstein.
I made clear that there was a Jeffrey Epstein. They knew on the other side that I did not have time to actually pull up and actually research, especially since that particular one that Lee Zeldin got up in an uproar about was specifically out of the New York area. We know that he was out of that area. So, and this obviously was not done post Jeffrey Epstein's life. So I made sure that I said a Jeffrey Epstein.
But you were trying to insinuate that it was the Jeffrey
I absolutely
Epstein.
Was insinuating that it could be possible. That is true.
James, I'm starting to think that Jasmine Crockett, she might actually like giving train wreck interviews.
There's clearly some kind of sadomasochistic tendency going on here. And I think a part of it might come from the fact that any attention is good attention. And she's clearly learned that apologizing for her mistakes only invites more attention to her other mistakes. So why not just double down on the lie and just go ahead with it? So I think if she becomes the face of the Democratic Party, they are in for a very tough ride in 2026. And I imagine that Republicans will be doing all they can to make her the face of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the final point to be made here is that if you keep giving these car crash interviews, it's going to become synonymous with your name. She's young, it's early on in her career, but she's already becoming so discredited that she's already hurting the brand here. And with the party facing the most pivotal elections in living memory, this could be a crucial moment for them.